From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
Welcome to You Should Know. I'm your host, Evelyn Ledbetter, and today I have the pleasure of having Jodi Diaz with us. She is the Economic Director of Roosevelt County Community Development Corporation. So Jodi, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is actually just met you a couple of weeks ago. I've known who you were. Your mom actually was my English teacher for a lot of years out at Floyd, and a tremendous person. But tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Okay. I graduated from Des Moines High School, and I came to ENMU for college. I graduated with a bachelor's in elementary education, and then I went on to get my master's in sports administration. And I started right out of college. My first job was with the city of Portales in the recreation department. I was the director there. And then just a few years ago, I transitioned and became the executive director for the RCCDC.
Okay. And married, and you have a couple of little ones, I believe.
Right, I'm married, and I have 4 boys.
Oh,
so
life is busy.
It is busy. We like to be involved in the community, lots of sports, and we live here in Portales and like to support ENMU and, our community.
Well, and you were super involved in sports as a kiddo growing up, right?
I kind of came by it honest.
You did, with a dad as a coach?
Yes. So played sports, volleyball, basketball, pretty much all through, youth sports since I graduated. Okay. And then even at the university here, I was really involved in intramurals, work study positions, and then that was my graduate assistantship as well.
So you really, you kind of took a left turn where you were going into education and then decided maybe in the classroom wasn't the fit for you?
That was exactly right. I have to be careful because I mentioned this to a class I was teaching that are here at the university, and I said, well, I just decided that I didn't want to be a teacher. And one of them sat back and he goes, then why are you here? And I said, wait a minute, let me clarify. I did not want to be in the classroom all day long.
Right.
And so I found my niche was, I really enjoyed the sports, PE, recreation side of it. But as far as, just being in the classroom all day, that didn't feel like it was a good fit for me, which is why after I did my student teaching, I went right into my master's, and sports administration was my focus there.
Okay. And you said you actually teach here on campus some classes as well?
I do. Just some adjunct faculty. I just have 1 to 2 classes that I teach.
Okay. And so the transition, how did this come about of you transitioning from the rec center to the CDC?
Right. Well, as we know, the city did close down the rec center, and there were some changes going on within the city, and it really just got me thinking, I think there might be other opportunity, other places, and I think we reach a point in our career where maybe we want to shift and we want to reach a little bit further and do a little bit more, and the timing was just right because this position opened up. I had a couple people call me and ask me, if I might be interested in the position. And here I am.
And doors opened.
Doors open, that's right.
And you took the position, you said, what year did you step into this?
May of 22.
Okay. So the challenges of taking on a new position and getting it rolling through that. Well, let's dig in. And I wasn't real familiar with the community development, but can you just tell me a little bit about the mission and the history of it in general? Right.
So basically our mission, one of our major components is business retention and expansion. So for acronym's sake, BR&E is more commonly what it's called. But about 80% of your new business is going to come from existing business owners or people within your community. And so that is a main focus. Business recruitment is also another component, recruiting industry, and then also some entrepreneurial as well. So our main focus, yes, creating business and supporting local business.
Okay. And the history of the community development here started in 98, right, I believe?
I believe so.
So it's fairly, it's not that old of a program to begin with.
Right. So from the records I have found, yes, 98 seemed to be when it was established. I'm sure there was other forms of economic development before that, but this organization,
Okay.
I believe, was 98.
Okay. And who do you, tell me about how it's governed. I mean, who do you answer to?
Okay, so I have a board. We have three members on our executive board, and then we have basically 4 ex officio members. So how it works is for every $15,000 that is donated to the organization as per like a membership, you get 1 seat on the board. So the city of Portales is our biggest funder. So they get 4 seats on our board. Roosevelt County and ENMU are also funders, and they both get a seat. So the chancellor, city manager, county manager, and then we have a representative from Cannon Air Force Base. Those are all ex officio members. So they only vote if someone is absent in one of those seats.
Okay.
And so then we have 7 voting members.
And do they get really involved? I mean, as far as the direction and the process of this? Because do you have staff other than yourself?
I do not.
It's you.
No, just me. I was able to get an intern this spring. So we're kind of navigating that. Obviously, school just started a couple weeks ago, but it's been great so far. And we do share the building with the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce does have a staff member, promotions and events coordinator. And then we have student workers through work study at the front. So we share the student workers. However, they're not necessarily just underneath the RCCDC.
They're not dedicated just to you.
Not dedicated,
So,
that's
so
correct.
you do have to share and play nice.
We do, yes. And I will say the board, there's a healthy amount of involvement. So when we have events, and one of our events that I'll talk about later on, very involved. I mean, hands on deck, helping get everything prepared, very involved in the board meetings. Yes, everybody is very supportive and on board with our mission and what we're trying to do. So very appreciative to have, a supportive board.
It's always interesting when you're in marketing or development or jobs like that. It looks glamorous from the outside, but there's a lot of elbow grease and a lot of hard work behind the scenes to make those events look so polished that people attend.
Right, and there is a lot of behind the scenes work for sure.
You're unboxing pallets of different things and setting up. So, and your inspiration. I mean, you talked about this, but truly, the rec center was closing, so that's a pretty good inspiration to make a change. And this just happened to open up, so that segue into a great opportunity.
It did, but I also feel like even with, the city, there were other departments. There were other departments that I worked with very closely, or were even in my department at times. From the senior center, I also was involved with the city pool. I did some recreation and trail grants. So it was more community oriented. I see that now more so than I did at the time. But yes, it was more than just recreation. And so with this being community development, it really seemed like, okay, this is a way to be more involved and maybe more impactful. Not that, recreation and youth sports isn't impactful, but I feel like this reaches more of the community.
And for the long-term goals of having those programs get started and continue on into the future as well.
Right.
But what's a typical day for you?
Well, that changes.
I can't describe mine either.
Yeah. Every day's a little bit different. There are a lot of meetings. With that, we are partners with city, county, ENMU, Cannon Air Force Base. I sit on a housing committee for the base. So a lot of meetings, board meetings. We're also members of the chamber. I sit on the chamber board, ambassadors. There's various things I do within the chamber. So yes, there's a lot of meetings usually every week, but we try to plan 1 to 2 meetings with local businesses per week. So get those, and then of course just the preparation of our board packets, doing follow-ups with our business retention expansion meetings, prepping for board meetings, various things. And then also the RCCDC manages the Enterprise Center, which everyone knows is the chamber. So I've had to be careful as I say, oh, we'll meet at the Enterprise Center. And I have people that ask me, I don't know where that is, the chamber. So,
Well, I actually didn't know that either. So I just learned something.
yes, so we actually have multiple tenants within the building. So it is an enterprise center where it's open to, it houses the RCCDC and chamber, but we also have Senator Ben Ray Lujan's representative in our office as well. And then we've got some law offices, and then we have GED classes, and there's other offices downstairs.
And you're actually on the square here in Portales is where you're located at.
Right, yes, right on the square.
You know, it's kind of back in the old days where that was like the hub of the whole business, but for Portales, it's somewhat, that's still the case. You've got the post office and different things, the courthouse and the chamber and community development.
Yes, so just managing the building, you know, having tenants and, you know, of course, doing all of the accounting and financing and all of that. So it would be pretty boring if I got into all of the things throughout the day, but for the gist of it, yeah.
When you stepped into the position, some of the challenges when you stepped in, there had been a gap, or there's been a lot of transition. Can you kind of address that some?
Right. So once I started, I didn't realize that there was so much turnover in the position. And of course, you find things as you
once you're in
start any new position, yes. So about every 2 years, there's been a new director. And so I think the challenge is keeping things rolling. Luckily, the board was pretty consistent for the most part. And so those projects could kind of keep rolling. However, I think it is difficult to keep some of the projects when you're starting over with somebody new, trying to learn the position, the in and out day-to-day of the position itself, and then also to keep the relationships and pick up where somebody else left off. So we're hoping for some longevity here and to keep some of our projects moving forward.
Well, to me, this is a big part of your position is probably the relationships that you build with the businesses and the different ones. And without that continuity, it's a big, and if other people had different visions and goals than what you do.
Right, and that's why our BRNE is so important. And that's why it is the biggest component of our organization, because we have to be supporting our local businesses and creating those relationships where I found numerous things out by sitting down and having, just like you and I, our conversation with local businesses that I didn't know they were looking for expansion. I didn't know they were looking for various employees, because we have a hiring event once a year, and then we co-sponsor one at ENMU. But finding out, so many people need employees. And so just finding out certain things about their business that you might not just know from walking in and saying hello. So having those conversations is really important.
Actually getting to know the person, what their goals are on that business. So,
and where they see themselves. And we have to think not just how are things going today, but how are things going to be in 5 years or 10 years, or what's your succession plan? So there's multiple things that go into the business other than just, which is what I did when I very first started, just, hi, this is who I am, this is what our organization is. But now we're finding, how can we really help? How do we get into things that are really going to impact our local businesses?
Okay. You know, I'm learning a lot on this as well. And let's dig into, you've talked about how you work with local businesses, but government agencies and the funding. How is the corporation funded?
So we are funded primarily by, we call them our big three. So City of Portales, Roosevelt County, and ENMU. And then we have local donors, local businesses that donate to our organization that are supplemental income as well. And then just this past September, we received a certification through the State of New Mexico Economic Development Department. And so that's a $40,000 grant that we received this year. And then we can reapply for that for up to 10 years. So that has been a huge help with our operating budget.
Talk a little bit, you were telling me before we started the interview, but the process was pretty in-depth. It didn't just happen the first time you applied.
No, that's right. At the governor's conference in September is where we received their certification, and the comment that was made by the division director was that I was very persistent. And
you wore them down.
I said, well, that is true. But also I felt like it was very good for me learning the position and different components within the position. So yes, maybe we had a marketing plan, However, it wasn't on paper. It wasn't written down. It wasn't, planned out. So the certification itself was fairly thick that we had to put together and build these programs. And then not only are we building them, and I think that's why maybe year 3, which I said year 1, I feel like I had only been in the job a few weeks. And so that, I'm going to say that didn't count. But
I would say it didn't. You didn't. Learning the whole scope of this position is huge.
And that's where year 2, they said this is good. But year 3, they wanted to see implementation. And so that's where we were. Now we were really rolling with our BR&E visits, with our marketing plan, recruitment as well. And I will say, if we go back to the challenges, I started in 22. And so a lot of places were still coming off of COVID.
Right.
And businesses, either if they were starting back up or, some places unfortunately had to shut down. And so trying to find other businesses to backfill those. So coming off of that as well, I think was a challenge, but really seeing that how we can implement these programs.
Right. Because you literally, the transition to having workers that all of a sudden they didn't go to work into a brick and mortar building. They're working from home or remote, and businesses that turn to just completely a drive-through versus in the house dining, and just tons of different ways of working around.
Right. Yeah. And so back to the funding as well. So we have our big 3, we have our local donors, we received this grant, and then also some fundraising. So we've had different fundraising measures, and so we rely on that too, and have to be slightly creative, because I feel like we do not want to overplay, chamber events or maybe events at ENMU, local events, the high school. Any of those events, we don't want to overstep. So just finding a good medium of how we can fundraise, but also support the community. And by the events that we do put on and do provide, we want to be drawing into the community. So, and especially if we could draw from out of town and create more, heads and beds is going to be important for us. Sure.
And you're not wanting to try to, when you have a small community, not having events that coincide with another event, so neither one of you do very well on that weekend or whatever that goes in with it.
Yes, exactly.
So, well, tell me about some of the things that you do with the program, some of your events. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Okay, so we have not necessarily an event, but one of the things that we started a couple years ago, right after I started, was some facade grants. And we decided that was going to be a program that we would like to put back into the community. So the first year I started, I believe we gave out 12 facade grants of $1,500. It was a reimbursable matching grant. And then this past year, the county, as we talk about partnerships, the county partnered with us, and we got another $15,000 this past year to give out in facade grants. So I think we gave another 12 or 13 this past year. So overall, I think we've given about $35,000 in facade grants to local business. We didn't, at first, we thought we would do downtown. And then we thought, we do have support from city and our entire county.
Sure.
So we don't want to restrict it to just the downtown. We want anybody within Roosevelt County to be able to fix up the outside of their building, work on signage, any of that would improve the look of their business. We want to support that. And so, it's open to all Roosevelt County.
There was an old saying, and it was the sign, a sign of no business. I can't remember. It was like, basically, if you don't have a sign, it's a sign of no business. So the facades makes a big difference of drawing people in and making it inviting. And
it does. And we all know things catch the eye,
right.
So we just wanted to have that available for any of our businesses. And then moving into events, we hosted a summer jam when we talked to the board about an event that we wanted to try to do, and we felt like the leadership group had done a pickleball tournament because the ENMU has new pickleball courts.
Sure.
And felt like that was a fairly successful event. And so just as, leave everything aside, the board decided we would do a 3-on-3 youth basketball tournament and then an open to the community, all ages pickleball tournament. And we had a great turnout for that event. We hosted it in July, It was there where the pickleball courts are, but then where the tennis courts are, we hosted, and they now have basketball courts over there. We hosted a youth basketball tournament, a 3-on-3 youth basketball tournament. And I think we had over 1,000 people is what the data shows we had show up. I think we had 55 teams total that participated between pickleball and basketball. So it was a full day. We had food vendors, the jewelry, permanent jewelry, various vendors around. And so that turned out to be a great event. So once that event, and we saw that it was really, it was really taken in good by the community, I said, well, my son has gone to some Gusmackers, and could we see about getting a Gusmacker tournament? So I just emailed, and I thought, well, maybe this is a shot in the dark, but
not everybody may be familiar with Gusmacker.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about, just give an idea of what that is?
So Gusmacker is a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. It is not just for youth. It has numerous age groups from 35 and over men's. There's a very competitive, there's a 3-point contest, a dunk contest, all the way down to 8 and under. So it's actually open. Anybody can participate in Gusmacker. But it started in Michigan, kind of a cool story. It started in these two brothers, their driveway. And it is really big in the Midwest. And then we have about 5 here in New Mexico. And I do have to attend a conference next month. And one of my questions is, how did it get from Michigan to New Mexico? Because there's not any other tournaments that I found in Texas, Oklahoma. It's like it just leapfrogged from the Midwest over to New Mexico. So I'm very interested to learn that. But we will be on the tour, and it is a national tour.
Wow.
So we'll be on that for June of 25.
And you actually have a magazine that's put out, and I believe there's information on that tournament that's in here.
There is.
So you may be able to find the page a little quicker.
Yes, so this is the Portales magazine that the Chamber puts together every year.
Okay.
There's a lot of good
it's really
information
cool.
in there. And they did a very good job with the artwork. And we have this was some just pictures and background on our Summer Jam this past summer, and then our Gusmacker that's coming up in June. So we'll have more flyers and various things out after this month that'll give some more information, but yeah.
And what a
happy
great
to
thing,
share.
because kids are out of school, and it definitely brings a lot to the community to have activities and different ones to be involved in. And like you said, heads in the beds when you have lodging and meals, and that definitely brings things in.
Really adds to our GRT, and can provide a positive economic impact to Roosevelt County. So we're very excited about that, but then also to provide something that's fun, that's family oriented for the community, getting people out and about, interacting. So we feel like all the way around it's going to be a good event.
Well, I remember when my children were small, things like this wound up being your family vacation. So you went to a soccer tournament or a basketball tournament. And so, you went and did some other things within the community and shopped and some things like that.
Well, as you know, I'm definitely guilty of that. We've gone to a football camp and then had our family vacation after the camp was over. And we've done that more than once.
So there's only so much money that goes to that. Well, we're getting kind of short on time, but if members of the community, if they want to get involved, how would they go about that, just in general with the CDC?
So there's multiple ways if they want to volunteer for any of the events. Also, just a few more that we have. We host a hiring event. We're co-sponsoring with the Chamber to do pop-up shops. We have different small business trainings, QuickBooks trainings, donating to the organization, either your time or financially, and then you get more involved with what we're actually doing, maybe sitting in on some meetings, as long as it's not confidential, of course, then we would let people sit in. And so we really would like people to be more involved, and that way they can help spread the word about what our mission is, what we're trying to do, and how we're very much just here to support the community and local business. So helping spread the word on that.
I'm going to guess you have a website.
We do, rooseveltcdc.org.
And Facebook page?
Yes, Facebook page. And then always the Chamber and us, we share the same phone numbers.
Okay.
So
and then I know these magazines are always out and available in the community, and that gives a lot of information.
Yes, has a lot of information.
And so, like you said, not only financially, but volunteers as well, boots on the ground. And when you're a one-man band, that's huge to have that help.
Yes, it is.
So success-wise, can you talk, what is something you would consider a major success? And I know it's short-term, you've not been in there very long, but.
No, that's okay. There are some that I'll just touch on real quick. So some redevelopments that have taken place. So the Portales Hotel was a redevelopment that now obviously we have, another nice hotel here in town. The Tower Twin
That's true.
is now a mixed residential and commercial space with some luxury loft apartments. And then also, of course, we consider our event and then hosting Gus Macker, that was one of our big successes that we got. The certification that we received from the state, we definitely look at that. And then also, too, we have LEDA funds, Local Economic Development Assistance. And just recently, I'm sure everyone saw on the corner, Roosevelt County Electric, they were able to take the old City Hall building and create such a nice plaza downtown with now 2 EV chargers. And although it definitely was a partnership between multiple people, and then also Western Commerce Bank put the big Christmas tree down there. So it's really a nice space, but also to drive economic, growth in the downtown area.
Jodi, I know you're super busy. I appreciate you coming in today, and you've given some great information. There's contact ways to get in touch with you.
Yes.
And would love to have you back again sometime.
Yes, I'd love to come back.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
And to all of you joining us today, thank you. We will see you next time. Cheers.